My name is Tiara McKnight. I am a full-time artist. I am a stay-at-home mom, full-time too, of 5 little boys, but I'm also a full-time artist. I have a studio in my house, so I basically dedicated an entire room for my stuff. So when I first heard about this project, I thought it was really cool, and I feel like my entire life, I've lived my life pretty transparent because I believe that if you live transparent, people will reciprocate that. And so talking about like mental illness, especially at a time right now, has been the hype right now. Not necessarily always a hype, but it has just been a great topic to talk about because you realize how not alone you are. So when I first heard about this project, I was excited to participate, but to be quite honest, as soon as I hung up the phone with Sandra, I definitely got stuck because I haven't had to think about mental illness in a while. Because I was explaining to someone the other day is that like once you feel like you're in a healing place, you're able to talk about it, but it's hard to put your mindset back into that old patterns and old way of thinking. And yeah. Basically all of it. When I was younger, I dealt with a lot of depression and a lot of different mindsets and just not knowing who I am and also allowing the world to basically dictate who I was, which kind of suppressed a lot of things. I became an introvert almost because of the fact that people would make fun of me, and the only thing that would kind of alleviate all my thoughts was writing. So, but I also had a lot of people in my life currently now that deal with a lot of mental illness. Like one of my closest friends, he deals with bipolar. So I can't fully relate to that to him, but what I can do for him is to be able to show him my scars so that he feels comfortable in showing his. Um, my mother is a therapist right now. She does a lot of social work stuff too as well. So if I came down to it, a lot of my healing process has been about like seeking guidance through her and finding actual practical steps to kind of get out of my head a lot. So with writing, it was at first it was getting a lot of thoughts out, and it was like basically my letters to God, just like, hey God, I'm struggling here. And at first it always seemed very one-sided where I was just speaking everything, but I realized that he used other people to reach out to me and help me through finding out who I was and who I wanted to be. So it kind of just evolved into, starting off writing, but then still finding those people who wanted to actually help me. So this chair, I was really stuck with this chair because I had this completely different idea. I thought I was going to do hats and all these other things because I wear a lot of hats as like a mom, as a wife, all these different hats that I have to wear. And it, I wanted to say that that was what caused depression. But in reality, I actually had to go further back. I had to dig deeper, and I didn't know where it all stemmed from. And so I remember sitting there trying to get my head back into where it all stemmed from doing the work. I remembered that I used to write a lot. So for some reason, years ago, my mom gave me all my old journals that I've ever written in. And she was like, I don't know what to do with these. I never looked at them, but here, take them. So I had these in my closet, and I was just searching through, figuring out where the point in which I felt like I really was dealing with depression, like where was the root of it. And I found something from 7th grade. And so I was like, okay, so reading through an entire journal from 7th grade, reading through an entire journal from 10th grade, all the way up until current, it was like I could start to understand I was back then and how insecure I was. And even with this project, all those insecurities started coming up because I felt like that young girl who was giving a presentation in a science class and I got like a D on it because, everyone else had all these crazy projects and I had like this little mediocre thing that I barely put together, or that it was put together by me and my mom the night before. So, but started feeling that again. And I was like, I had to, honestly, I felt stuck. And so as I'm reading through these journal entries, I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to put myself out there. It's hard to explain someone's journey unless you put yourself in their shoes. So this chair was really about looking at my journey. There's different pieces of my journal entries from back from 7th grade. There's some that are at the early days of like the 20s or even when I first got married. Like it's almost like sort of a recap of my life and my mental illness or, journey. But to be quite honest, I couldn't even put everything up there. There wouldn't have been enough space. I had to go through at least 6 or 7 different journals and try to figure out which ones could best wrap all of it up. And honestly, I couldn't. So what I ended up doing was taking little pieces of journal entries and everything and putting it on the chair. But I also had, I feel like, I know it's so hard to explain, but I feel like sometimes my mind, there's the depressive side, but then there's the hope-filled side. And so they're constantly at war, even now. Now it's more the positive is winning a lot more than depressive side because I feed that part of me. I listen to things that uplift me and that I can be able to use to encourage others. And so when creating this chair, I had to think about I just didn't want it to be a negative thing. I didn't want somebody to look at it and just see all the negative stuff in it. I wanted to, if somebody's going to read it, I want you to have an encouraging word in there. I want to, because that's the way my mind works. There's a lot of negativity in this chair. There's a lot of heartfelt letters and journal entries, but there's also hope in it. And I didn't want this chair to just be something that's just pretty. I wanted somebody to come up close to it and read a little bit of me and just get a piece of my story. Not the whole thing, but if somebody can just read something and be inspired by it, then I've done my job. And the bottom I had a hard time with because I was like, oh man, I don't know what else to put down there. But I think that's the beauty of it, honestly, because the bottom is mostly blank. I know that these thoughts aren't the end, and I know that in future I'm probably going to have some more journal entries and I'll probably put them out there, but I want this chair just to be a reminder of my journey and that there's still hope, even through it. Sorry, long story. That part is a good question. I had some time to work on the chair, but because of the because of the process it took to get out of my head and stop feeling stuck in that that little girl, I can't exactly give you an exact time frame it took because it was I would work on it throughout a week or stop and be stuck, and I was contemplating on whether to put my artwork in there because I am an artist and you want to make sure that you see your art, but at the same time I was like, creative writing and writing itself is part of my DNA too, so I might as well show the good and the ugly, and but I don't know, actually, to be quite honest. It was probably a couple weeks or some procrastinating, but I don't think it was procrastination. I think it was just trying to figure out a direction and figure out who I was and where I want to go with this. Uh, well, this is my first time participating, so I am very humbled and blessed to be able to be a part of this. I would say that this project is beautiful and that it is going to change a lot of lives. And I think the whole idea of this is we show our vulnerability so you can show us yours and you can feel like you're not alone. And regardless of what artists did or whatever, how vibrant, I think we all share the same message that we are still connected and we still can relate to each other's scars. So.